Will we be the party of conservatism? Or will we follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative principles? Should the new populism of the right seize and guide our party, the Republican Party we've long known will cease to exist, and the fate of American freedom would be in doubt. The truth is, the Republican Party did not begin on a golden escalator in 2015.
Nice touch. That was Mike Pence yesterday, and the former Vice President is with me in our studio in New York this morning. Mr. Vice President, it's very good to see you.
Thank you, Stuart. Good to be here.
You came out swinging against populism. So why don't you tell us what kind of a conservative you are?
Well, look, I'm running for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. Here at Varney Co, you cover this economy better than anybody else in the country, so I don't have to tell you what those Americans said in the clip just before the break. I mean, despite all the happy talk about Bidenomics, American families are hurting. I mean, mortgage rates at a 22-year high. I mean, we have a national debt today the size of our nation's economy for the first time since World War II. Joe Biden's policy is insolvency. He won't even talk about it. But what I wanted to call out yesterday is that the former president and many of his imitators in this Republican primary are taking the same position as Joe Biden on the subject of dealing with the national debt with common sense conservative reforms of Social Security and Medicare. That plus our American leadership in the world, there seems to be a desire in our party to pull back from American leadership on the world stage and, of course, marginalizing the right to life. For me, I've been a conservative my whole career, Stuart, and I want people to know that it's not just who is going to be our candidate, it's what we stand for that's going to dictate victory and success for the American people.
You're coming on strong against Trump. This is relatively new in your campaign. Do you feel you have to do that to catch up because he is in the lead? Well,
elections are about choices. But I understand. I spoke about my former running mate yesterday, but I also spoke about some others in the field. I actually think when you look at the success of the Republican Party over the last 50 years, it has been defined by a commitment to a strong national defense, American leadership in the world, limited government, low taxes, less regulation, traditional values. But not just the former president, but others in the field are beginning to move off of that and in the direction of more government-based solutions, ignoring our national debt. I don't have to tell you that national debt today is driving inflation almost more than any other single factor. And as I said, Joe Biden's policy is insolvency. But I think we owe it to the American people to bring conservative, time-honored solutions to those principles. It's not personal. You know, as you know, the president and I had a close working relationship for 4 years. He wasn't just my president, he was my friend. I stood loyally by him until the day came that my oath to the Constitution required me to do otherwise. I'm proud of the Trump-Pence administration's conservative record. But when I see him and others in our party wanting to move away from that commitment on security and prosperity, I want to call it out and make this debate about those ideas.
You and Vivek Ramaswamy were both at a Labor Day event in New Hampshire. You avoided each other. You were at the same event, but you avoided each other. Why didn't you confront him?
Well, I didn't have the impression we avoided each other. I think.
Well, you didn't get together, did you?
No, look, I was actually there to meet voters.
But you could have had a go at him right there.
Pretty sure he's not going to vote
because he had a go
Stuart,
at
I'm not. But look, this is really about talking to voters. But look, I met Vivek a couple years ago and had him speak at a conference that my foundation in Washington hosted. He's a good man. He's a good family man. But he's wrong on America's role in the world. I mean, the idea of a policy that he's advocated of letting Vladimir Putin keep what he has grabbed in Ukraine and promising him that Ukraine will never be a part of NATO, saying that we'll let China have Taiwan essentially after 2028, and even saying in the last week that we wouldn't use military force to defend Israel against an attack by Iran. He's wrong on those policies, but I also believe he's also another one in the field that has said that he would leave entitlement reform and the national debt to some other president. He said a president can't do everything. Well, I got a newsflash for him and anybody else vying for the highest office in the land, Stuart. I've been in the building. A president has to do everything and has to confront the crises of the moment.
In what way and in what issue would you single out as putting you above and apart from all the other GOP candidates? Well, what's the issue?
Well, I just say with all humility that I'm the most qualified, the most consistent, and the most tested conservative in this race. And when you look at the disastrous policies of the Biden administration at home and abroad, now more than ever, we need experienced leadership in this country that can day one turn this country
Forgive
around.
me, Mr. Vice President, I'm interrupting all the time, but someone like Vivek Ramaswamy would say, okay, you got the experience, but what we need is a new generation of American politics, of American leadership. Respond to that.
Well, I feel like a new generation. When you look, you look at President Joe Biden and my old running mate. I'm just about a generation behind, however you reckon it.
Okay.
But look, I'm somebody that really does believe that it's not about personalities. It's not about the people. It's really about the agenda. And as I said, you know, the Republican Party wasn't born on that golden escalator back in 2015. It wasn't even born when Ronald Reagan came to office. I really believe the Republican Party was minted by the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. And even Ronald Reagan himself said these ideas he expressed did not come from him. They came from the heart of a great nation. They're the principles of limited government, a commitment to the Constitution, free market economics, traditional values, and a commitment to strong national defense and American leadership in the world. That's
on the economy,
agenda.
Tax cuts, cut regulations,
Yeah.
energy independence. That's what you are for.
Right. At MikePence2024.com, we've literally laid out a plan to tackle inflation, to unleash American energy, and to restore federalism. I mean, look at the headlines today. I mean, the Biden administration is back to offlining millions of acres in Alaska to make us more dependent in energy on the world. We'll achieve energy independence. We'll roll back regulations. We'll make those Trump-Pence tax cuts permanent, and we'll even cut taxes further to get this economy moving.
Mr. Vice President, thank you very much for being with us this morning. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you, sir.